So the big question on your mind, reason why you clicked on this video, is you want to know whether you need to buy a house or to build it, especially when it comes to living and or investing in Ghana in one way or the other. Now, this video is going to be taking you through the pros and cons of doing both. And then hopefully by the time the video is over, you will be able to make an informed decision on how to proceed. We'll be right back. My name is Jessica. Welcome back. This is my YouTube channel. I'm a broadcaster, fitness enthusiast, biker girl, and a voice actor as well, who lives in Accra, Ghana, and I'm a proud African YouTuber. So yes, I'm sure you're in a dilemma. You can't quite figure out whether you should buy or build. And I'm going to be going through with you real quick the pros and cons of doing both. And so let's start with building your own house in Ghana. And of course, let's go right into the pros. The first very obvious pro is the fact that you can customize the property to suit your needs. There are people who want bigger kitchens, there are people who want bigger garages, etc., etc. If you build your own home, at least you can build it to specification. And that's one of the biggest advantages that you may have over someone who's buying a home outright. Number two, you have the added advantage of not having to deal with hidden problems that may already exist in this other property that you're buying. Because of course, you know the kind of materials that you used for your current property. You can even tell the sand to cement ratio, and you just know the quality of material you've used. Of course, it inures to your benefit, as you know, sometime down the line, you won't have to deal with, structural problems or anything else that could take money out of your property long after the property has been bought. And number three, for me, simply talks about the fact that you may have to be paying less in terms of maintenance cost once the building is put up, because you put quality materials in it, you supervised the work or had people to do it for you, people you trusted, and therefore you may not have to be, incurring the kind of ridiculous maintenance costs that other people who buy houses incur. Now let's look at the cons of building a home, especially in Ghana. Now, for me, the biggest issue is just basically locking up your capital in the property for the period of time, the duration of time that you're still building. Now, let's get this straight. Think about it. If you had $20,000 and you were trying to start building something for the next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, maybe even 5 years, that the property remains underdeveloped and you cannot move in, you've literally locked $20,000 or whatever amount of money you've pumped into a structure that's not finished. You cannot rent it, you cannot live in it. It has absolutely no benefit to you. And so things like that, if you're someone who's business minded, might affect the final decision that you take as to whether you want to be building or buying, because, you could invest that $20,000 elsewhere and make some really serious returns in that space of time that you're using to build, and the building is uncompleted. Now, a lot of people who build their homes in Ghana will tell you that you never actually stick to budget. Now, this is simply because there are fluctuating market prices. Today, you could walk in and a bag of cement will be, say, 20 Ghana cedis. Tomorrow you walk in and it's 25, because everything is pegged against the dollar. So really, the more the cedi depreciates, the more you tend to pay for raw materials you use to build your house, because they're pegged against the dollar. And so something like that can let you really offshoot your budget, whereas you may have planned to spend just, say, $70,000 to build your house, let's say, but you end up spending $100K by the time you're done. Now, welcome to Ghana, where schedules literally go out the window. So you could give yourself a time frame that you're going to build this house in 1 year, have a proper breakdown and everything, and yet the artisans working on your building will let you down. Yes, they will come up with all sorts of stories. My kid is sick, it rained today, I fell in a gutter, the trotro broke down, and sometimes these real estate developers will tell you just the kind of headaches they go through just to get these artisans to commit to the project until it's fully done, and to enable them deliver the project on time to their client, in this case, you. And of course, there's the almighty land litigation issues in Ghana. Listen, this is such a big deal that it's a deterrent to a lot of people, including me. I'll tell you this, I've lost 2 plots of land in pretty prime areas over the last 8 years to, just unscrupulous people who sold the land to multiple buyers, and at the end of the day we all sort of clashed on the land, and I just let it go, to be honest. And litigation issues are really real, and indeed, if you're watching this video, I'm sure that you might have heard a story or two about people who have experienced this kind of thing on their own. It's real, and it's something that should not be taken for granted, should highly be considered when you plan on building your own home, because you need to find a land that's litigation free. Next, I would say complicated paperwork that's even more complicated by the bureaucracy in the system. Now, anyone will tell you this when you come to Ghana. To get people to do their own jobs, you need to pay them separately. Else someone can literally sit on your building plans for weeks without touching it, when all you might need is a simple stamp to be able to go ahead. And this has eaten into the fabric of the Ghanaian society, such that you might encounter such trouble or such things as you try to sort of sort out on your own your building permits and papers and that kind of thing. So definitely something for you to look out for as a strong con, a strong negative when it comes to building your own home in Ghana. Now let's go into the pros of buying a house outright in Ghana. Chances are the real estate developer has already gone through all the wahala to do with the land, its registration, and literally all you'll be doing is pretty much signing all the paperwork at the end of the day and taking all those papers to you. So you cut out a lot of, the complications that you face when trying to sort of put your paperwork together to make sure that you have all the necessary documents for the house that you just bought. So one of the biggest pros of buying your own house in Ghana is the fact that you, of course, avoid all the whole land litigation, land guard issues, because chances are your real estate developer has already gone through the motions, dealt with all the necessary people, and has the right papers in place to make sure that your land is legitimate. Of course, there's also the added benefit of, them pretty much doing all the legwork, getting all the paperwork in place for you to just sign off once you're done paying for the building. So it cuts out all the stress you go through when, you're trying to get some of these things done. Now, another thing is you can quickly move into the property as soon as you're done buying. You don't have to wait. You know that you've paid for it. You've moved in, you're benefiting from it almost immediately, and you can move on with your life and start thinking about other ways to spend your time, money, make your family comfortable as well. Great idea if you ask me. Now, one thing a lot of people also like to do is, have a chat with people who already live in the community. Chances are they've got some valuable information for you about what typically goes on there. How high is the crime rate? Are there schools that are close by? Is there a hospital that's close by? And all the things that you typically think about before you buy a property in a certain area. So if you're going to be buying, at least you can do your background checks and get real testimonials from people who live in the neighborhood. And I feel like, that's definitely something that should carry a lot of weight. And finally, a pro of buying your own house will include the emotional satisfaction that you get from, just being able to literally kick back, say, I want that house, pay for it, and then just go and move in. End of story. Now, if you know, because in Ghana, it can be really tasking when you want to put up any property by yourself. Let's look at the cons of buying in Ghana. Now, these are pretty straight to the point. As with building your own property, the biggest pro being able to customize. The con for buying your property outright is the fact that, of course, you're not going to be able to customize. So whatever the real estate developer places, whether the kitchen is smaller, whether the hall is smaller, whether you would want a larger bathroom, all those things do not depend on you, are actually already fixed and you can't customize. So if you're someone who's picky, want certain things in your space, then you'll always have these kinds of issues. And this will be a really big deciding factor for you as to whether you should buy or build. Of course, one of the biggest things that people also tend to look at when taking decisions about buying their house outright is the fact that there might be a lot of hidden issues that you may not know about when you buy this property. And boy, I mean, some of them can range from mild to really, really bad, like structural problems and that kind of thing. And so if you think about that, you may not want to end up buying, but instead building your own. And then, of course, if you're planning on buying and you're also really, really picky, then searching for the ideal home will be a big headache, because you'll probably have to deal or look at 7 other properties before you sort of settle on one. And that alone has its own disadvantages, where if you look at, say, 5 properties, by the time you go back to the first one, because you think, oh, this property does better or comes across better than the other, someone else may have bought it because it's still on the market. So that's also something that you need to consider. And of course, if this matters to you, there's also the issue of you inheriting basically the problems of the community. You know, if you live in a community that has no water, chances are you're not going to magically, conjure water into your house. You're going to have to pretty much do what all the others are doing. If there's no constant power supply or any of these other things that generally happen in the community, you inherit it as well, and you have absolutely no choice in how things pan out. So yeah, I mean, that's essentially the 2 ways that I'd like you to see this. Whether you want to build or buy a house in Ghana is entirely up to you. For me, though, if you ask me, I think it really depends on the stage of life that you're in. If it's not your first property, then perhaps you have the luxury of building. However, let's say you're a young family and you're looking to put a roof over your family's head, you might not have the luxury of waiting 5, 10, 2 years before you can do that. So in that way, or in that case, I would recommend that you buy a building outright. And I've always said this, I've always preached this, that your first house does not have to be your dream house. I hope these tips were helpful. My name is Jessica. Thanks for watching. Adios. See ya.